All right, my people. How y'all doing? You know what time it is. It's election time. And this time it's the primaries. And like last election, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but I will tell you what you will be voting for. And we're going to start with the state treasurer. What is the state treasurer? They're the state's head banker and money manager. They receive and deposit the state's money, and they manage investments and keep tracks of the state budget. They do not raise money through taxes. That is what the state legislator and what the Department of Revenue does. But they raise money by selling the state's debt through state bonds and notes. And they use that money to pay the state's employees and fund every item on that state budget, like state parks, highway constructions, and public school. State treasurer. Moving on down. Auditor General. They're responsible for using audits to ensure that all state money is being spent legally and properly. They gauge whether or not government programs and activities are meeting goals, objectives, and if that tax money is being spent efficiently and effectively. Kings and queens, that is your Auditor General. Moving on up. Congress. Congress, they make the laws that influence our everyday life. All right? And if the president wants to create a law, they present it to Congress. The Congress votes. And what is this Congress? The Congress is split up into two houses. The Senate, there's 2 senators per state, and they represent the state. And the House Representatives, let's just say they represent the people of the state. And they're split up into the districts amongst the state. So that's why it's important to fill up that census, right? To make sure that you are represented and that you have a person who could represent you in the House of Representatives amongst Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, Congress. Moving on down. Attorney General. They are the chief lawyer of the federal government of the United States. They supervise and represent the U.S. in the Supreme Court and all other courts, foreign and domestic. They supervise the Department of Justice, that is the FBI, the DEA, the ATF, the Bureau of Prisons, U.S. Attorneys, U.S. Marshal. All right? So, who is the boss of the DEA, FBI, ATF? The Attorney General of the U.S. And they give legal advice to the President and the Cabinet. But we are voting for the state's Attorney General. And what they do is they represent the people in civil criminal matters before trial courts. They serve as legal counsel to state officers with few exceptions to state agencies, boards, and commission. They assist the district attorney and local law enforcement's federal and international criminal justice agencies in the administration of justice. And they manage programs and projects to detect if it's unfair or any legal activities for victimized consumers and threaten public safety. All right? So, what does that mean? So, during COVID, let's say if you went into a store, they try and sell you hand sanitizer for like $10. You're like, hand sanitizer, $10? Nah. Let me hit up my Attorney General and file a complaint, and then they will reach out to, and their team will reach out to that store, and then they will investigate, and then, you know, if it's unfair, they will protect your consumer rights and hit them with a fine and bring that price down. Ladies and gentlemen, Attorney General. Moving on up. President. What is the president and what do they do? The president is a chief legislator. They drive influence in lawmaking. The president does not make the laws, but they drive the influence to it. Who makes the laws? Congress. They influence it, okay? And if the president wants to make a law, they'll pass it to Congress and Congress will vote on it. They are the chief of state, the chief executive, the broad executive powers over domestic issues and extended to foreign affairs. Right? International affairs. They are the chief administrator. They are in charge of executive branch of the federal government. They are also the chief diplomat, the main architect of U.S. foreign policies, nation's chief spokesperson to other countries, and then they're also the commander-in-chief. They are the top person who is in charge of the nation's military, all military branches the president is the chief, commander-in-chief. And they are the chief of party, the leader of his or her political party. Of course, y'all knew that. And then, lastly, they are the chief citizen. They represent all people and they work for the people's interests and provide moral leadership. But remember, they are responsible for the execution and enforcement of the laws that are created by Congress. That is your president. And tomorrow is the day of the election. Let's make sure that we cast our vote because voting is important. And that is also a protest. Peace and love.